In this video, I'm going to show you a few examples of the features I mentioned in the previous videos and how I use them to finalize a song structure. If you already understand the features that I've taught in the previous videos and you don't want to follow along creating the same song as this, then feel free to skip this video. I'll upload this Ableton set in the resources folder attached to the next video. So the first thing I want to do is change the structure slightly. I'd like to extend the length of this last chorus, as if you look at the top here, we can see we've got 8, 16, then 24 bars of the last chorus. I'd like it to be 8 more bars, so it's double the length of the first chorus. So there's a number of different ways we can do this. Firstly, I'll show you the loop function. So what I'm going to do is move these two parts here, so the arp low and melody, I'm going to move them over 8 bars. So I'm going to click on one, hold shift, then click on the other one, and click and drag them to the right. They've now been moved 8 bars. Now I want to select all of these tracks here. So I'm going to make a selection by clicking and dragging down. Now they're all selected. If I hover over one of these clips, you'll see this bracket icon appears. Now when I click and drag that out to the right, it's going to loop each and every one of these tracks. So now our chorus is the right length. Again, I might do the same for the outro, just to make that twice as long. So I'm going to click and drag that out 8 bars. So I could have used a number of different features to do this. I could have used copy and paste or duplicate, but sometimes using the loop feature is just a bit quicker. Right, now I want to make some more changes to the song. If we were to listen back to this first chorus, you'd notice that all of the parts are exactly the same for the first 8 bars as they are in the second 8 bars. But just to make the song a little more interesting, I'm going to add some more variation. So first of all, I'm going to change the drum part here. Now, what I'm going to do is split this drum clip so we have 2 separate clips. At the moment, it's the same clip which has been looped 4 times. So I'm going to click on the lower half of this clip here, so the selection marker appears. Then I'll press Command and E on a Mac or Control E on Windows to cut it. Now these are 2 separate clips. Let's open this one up. So I'm just going to double click on the top part of this clip. Great, so we now have it opened up in our MIDI note editor. One thing you may notice, this is a 4-bar clip. I want it to be an 8-bar clip so I can do all the editing in one clip. So I'm just going to join these 2 together. To do that, I'll click on this clip here. You can see the marker in the middle there, which is showing it's actually 2 clips looped. I'll zoom in a touch using the plus key on my keyboard. See that little black marker at the top there? That's just showing us that this clip is looped. So to join these together, I'm going to use the shortcut Command J or Control J on Windows. That marker has now disappeared. Now when you open up this clip, we can see here it's 8 bars. I'm just going to zoom in on the first couple of bars as I want to delete a kick drum. So this kick drum here I'm going to delete, so I'll select it and press backspace. Now I'm going to scroll over a little. I'm just going to duplicate this kick drum, so I'll hold Option and click and drag. I'm just going to delete all of the kick drums in bars 7 and 8. Okay, great. I'm just going to close my MIDI note editor now. Now I've made a change to this part, I'm going to rename and colour this clip. So I'm just going to right click on the clip, go to rename, and I'm going to call this Chorus Drums 2, then hit enter. Now I'll right click and give this a different colour, just so we know it's different. Now something else I should mention here is you can copy clips from the arrangement view back into the session view. So the easiest way to do this is click on the clip that you'd like to copy over, go over to the session view icon at the top right, then you can drop it in onto any track you like. So I'm just going to drop it in on this empty clip on the drums track here. So now if we want to experiment again and change the structure of our song later, we've got our new clip idea here. So let's just listen back to this section. Okay, great. Now I'm going to make a change to another part. This time I'm going to do it on the bass part. So once again, I'm going to split this 8-bar loop into 2. So I'm going to select where I'd like to make the cut, then press Command and E on Mac or Control E on Windows, and it's cut. We now have a second clip. I'll just rename and colour this differently now. So let's right click, choose colour, then right click and rename. I'm going to call this Chorus Bass 2. So I'll just double click on the top of this clip to open up the MIDI note editor. I'm going to delete a couple of notes in bar 7 and stretch this out so it's one long held note, and then just have one quick note at the start of bar 8 and delete the rest. Right, there's a couple more parts I want to change. This time I want to change the second half of the verse. So I'm going to do it on the drums first again. So I'm going to click where I'd like to cut my clip, press Command E, and then rename and colour. Verse drums 2. Once again, I'll join these clips together, as if we zoomed in again, you'll be able to see this little marker there, indicating that it's a clip that's been looped. So now I've got it selected, I'll press Command J or Control J, and it disappears, and now it's one long clip. Right, I'm just going to draw a symbol in on beats 1 and 3 of each bar. So I'm going to open up the draw tool by pressing B and draw these in. I'm just going to do this the whole way through. I'm going to draw in a snare part for this end section. So I'm going to start this at bar 7. Also want to make sure I'm drawing in 16th notes, so I'm going to change the grid setting to 1/16. Okay, great. Now before I forget, I'm going to copy these clips over to the session view. So this time I'm going to click and hold on the clip that I'd like to copy, then press the Tab button. Now I can drop this into the session view. I'll do the same with the drums. I'm not putting these in any particular order at the moment, I just want to copy them over quickly. Next part I want to change is this bass here. So let's cut this clip into 2 once again. So click, Command E or Control E. I'm going to use the shortcut Command R to rename this clip. Call it Verse Bass Fill. And I'll give it a colour. I'm just going to change my grid setting to quarter notes at the moment so I could draw in some quicker notes. It was on half. So in bar 4 I'm going to shorten this note and draw in another shorter note. Notice here the velocity is different. I'm just going to bring it down so it's more similar to the other bass notes. I'm just going to shorten this note here. I'm going to copy this one up to a C and shorten it down so it doesn't overlap with the next note. I'm just doing that so I don't have to change velocity again. I'm just adding some variation to these parts to make it sound a bit more interesting. If it was the exact same bass part in both sections of the verse, the song might be a bit dull. Now I'm going to add one more note at the end here, so we're ending on a G rather than on the F. Once again, I'll copy this over to the session view. So I've clicked on it, pressed Tab, and now I can paste it in where I'd like. Again, you don't need to do this, but sometimes I like to make a copy of these clips in the session view so I can play with ideas in the future. Also going to change these guitar chords slightly. So again, I'll cut this clip, give it a new colour and a new name. And I'm going to change a part. This time I'm just going to change the last 2 notes so they match with the bass part. So I'm going to draw a G here, and I'm going to bring the velocity up slightly, this time just in the velocity window down here. I'm just going to copy this up by holding Option and dragging, and now we've got a B. Once again, I'll copy this over. There's one more part that I'd like to change. I'm just going to do this in the drums once again. This time it's just going to be the exact same 4-bar loop playing over and over, so I'm not going to join these clips together. going to open up and make the change in this one 4-bar loop. It's going to duplicate this maracas part, so we've got the same on a cowbell here, and copy this over so it's repeating once each bar. Again, just a bit more variation can make your song more interesting. Finally, I'll make sure I've renamed this and given it a new colour to make it easy to distinguish. So I'll click and hold that, press Tab, and I'll paste this on the drums track. Finally, I'd just like to draw in one more part in the verse. So, to draw in a new MIDI clip, all you have to do is double-click. Now we've got a new clip. It's going to stretch this out so it's 8 bars in length, and press Command-J to make it one single clip. Now I'll double-click on this to open it up in the MIDI note editor. Now I can draw in MIDI notes just like in the session view. I'm just going to make sure my grid's on 8th note and draw in this part. Again, I'm going to turn on the scale mode so I can see which notes to use. I'm just going to have this part here repeating up until the end of the 4th bar, so I'll copy it over using Option Drag once again. And now I'll change the last note so it jumps up an octave. To be honest, this is just going to be a 4-bar clip, so I could either copy all of these notes to fill out this space in the clip, or I could just shorten the length of the clip in the arrangement view. One thing you need to mention, if you draw in a MIDI clip on the arrangement view like this, make sure that you enable loop. If loop is not enabled, this clip will not loop. As you can see here, this loop is now active. So if I were to turn loop mode off, shorten this, and then bring it out again, it's not actually looping the clip, it's just changing the length of it. So what I recommend you do is turn loop mode on, then change the length to the length that you'd like. So I'm going to change this to 4 bars, then hit enter. Now you can see there it's looped in this blank space. Now when I click and drag this out, it continues to loop. Right, so let's just give this a name. So I'll right click and rename and call this verse melody. Now I'm going to click on it and hold, press tab and copy it over into my session view. Great, so we've made a number of different changes to this song now, and I feel like it's going to be a more interesting arrangement. I haven't gone into the musical reasons and why I made these changes, as I'm not covering music theory at the moment. I just wanted to get through this as quickly as possible. Just before I play this song back so you can hear the changes, I'll mention 2 more things. If you want, anytime you can click and drag samples from the browser. So if you wanted to add a sample to your track, you could simply drag and drop it in like you would in the session view. I'd recommend bringing it down to the bottom here where it says drop files and devices here. This will create a new track for that sample. Again, if you want to make a new track with an instrument, you can do so. So just open up whatever instrument preset you'd like to use and drag and drop that into the same area at the bottom here. You'll see here we've got a new track. I don't need it though, so I'm going to press undo. Okay, great. I'll just play through this song so you can hear how it sounds now. Okay, when I was playing it back, I just heard a couple of things that I wanted to change. This audio bass part I've cut short so it finishes at the same time as the MIDI notes. Looking more carefully, I've cut it a bit too short, so I'm going to extend it out a tiny bit again. You may have noticed I changed the velocity of the cymbal in the verse, and also the cowbell in the final chorus. Something I've just noticed now, at some point I've made a mistake, and this clip is now looping longer than I wanted, and this one is starting later. So I'm just going to change the length of this clip and bring this one back. I'm going to do the same on the guitar part. I'll just play this bit back to make sure it sounds correct now. Okay, great, that's much better. The song now has more variation, so it's a bit more interesting. It's a good idea when making music to try out your ideas using the session view and make tweaks in the arrangement view. There's some other features I'd like to look at too, such as recording audio and MIDI into the arrangement view. Now you should have a good understanding of how to use Ableton Live. We've taught you how to write in and record MIDI and audio in the session view, and also how to get your ideas from the session view into the arrangement view and then make changes. Thanks for watching.